We don't know the strength, but just looking at it, when you see every building, even manufactured buildings, being wiped off their foundation and ripped apart, you know that it's at the upper end of the scale. This is Meeker. Now this is to the west of Prague, Oklahoma, and let's listen in on KFOR.
5 miles, so it's right on top of Meeker right now. So folks, take your tornado precautions if you're in this area in the path of the storm, because it's been down or already be on the ground and just a rain wrap and not be able to see it. Mike?
Okay, let's go to the storm tracker, talk about this storm further south heading for Pauls Valley. Again, it has to be a balance between continued threat to life and what we have had happen.
All right, so again, we are following this tornado here that is not very far away from Meeker, and you can see right in here, this little notch is where the tornado is located. That's right along 62. Apparently, we're getting some ground confirmation of that. We're not seeing an absolutely tremendous rotational signature on Doppler radar, but nonetheless, we are seeing, at least in the video there, that there very well could be a tornado that is headed towards Meeker. So it's time now to take shelter to get to your safe location in the Meeker area. And, I don't know if we can go back to some of the video of the destruction that we saw earlier today in Moore. Now it's just about an hour ago. But Brian, as you mentioned, this was perhaps very different from the Moore tornado that occurred in 1999 because it was so large, maybe looking at a 1.5 mile wide path. And we saw that as we were watching the video. We saw this incredible lowering, and it's absolutely heartbreaking to see, at least in one section, it looked like there were several streets where the houses may have been cleared away. And that's why, you know, in cases like that, if you're not underground, there's almost no safe place to be.
As they proved in 1999, folks that actually did the right thing unfortunately didn't survive that because their house was completely blown away, and we saw that in other tornadoes as well. Once they get up into that upper EF4, EF5 range, and by the way, remember the Moore, Oklahoma was tornado in 1999 was the fastest wind speed ever recorded on the Earth.
That's right.
Because they happened to have those mobile Dopplers out there.
Yes.
It was early in that technology, and this was the first time they deployed them in that way. Over 300-mile-an-hour winds, first time and only time that's ever been recorded. Now, we don't know that that's happened here, but as you said, this is a wider tornado path, and significantly wider, it just looks like from the initial aerials here. And you see the damage there. It looks like Joplin. It looks like in that EF4, EF5 range. It's just hard to imagine that everybody got out of that incredibly wide area. There's I-35. We think that's I-35. We shouldn't say, but that does visually look like I-35.
Yeah, we were.
And that makes sense because we know the tornado came over the interstate there, and as it moved just south of downtown Moore.
That's right, and we were looking at the velocity signatures from this storm as it was coming right through Moore. It actually was peaking in intensity right over Moore, and the velocity signatures, and we're looking up a few thousand feet in the air when we look at these, they were indicating that the winds were probably around 200 miles per hour. So we know that at least for a time, that were above the ground were somewhere around 200 miles per hour. So it's certainly not a stretch to think that we'd be seeing wind like that on the ground.
You know, we saw those long track tornadoes. We talk about these long track tornadoes. This was not one of them, right?
Yes.
Right. This was actually a very short track tornado, as you said. Very unfortunately, it peaked over the densest population that it went over. It got spun up quickly. It just roared to life essentially, and became this a perfect looking, just spectacular looking tornado. And then it dissipated quickly thereafter, but that peak time was over Moore, Oklahoma.
All right, we want to go back now to some of KFOR's coverage.
Where we're told, we just spoke with Dr. Orr, the owner here, and you could see the entire landscape here. There's 106 acres completely wiped out by the path of this tornado that just tracked right through this area. You can't even tell what any of this stuff was. One of the first questions I had for them when I got out here, I said, "Were these homes? What was this?" You honestly can't even tell. But they tell me that these were horse stalls out here where they'd store a ton of these horses. A lot of the animals didn't make it through the storm. And then if you look farther off in the distance, you can see homes that are on the other side of this property. So we're talking about just complete and utter devastation out here. And right now, the people that I've spoken to, a lot of the people that are related to the family that runs this farm out here, they're just trying to find some of these animals. A lot of them are in very bad shape. They're going to have to put them down immediately because of just what they went through. But again, when you look across, I mean, if we just kind of pan over here to the left, and you see that plume of smoke. I believe Bob Moore Chopper 4 was over that earlier. And then just you can see the path of how this tornado just kind of came right through here. And it gives you an idea of how wide it was. Because, I mean, from where I'm standing, I'm looking hundreds of yards to the south of me, and I can't even see past the devastation. And it's on every single side of us. So you're talking about just a huge path that this tornado just carved right through the center of this farm here, through residential neighborhoods, and then up right through the heart of Moore, really. And again, if you look off in the distance, you can see some people running out there. They're running to go check on animals. People just keep showing up here in tears. I mean, it is just absolutely heartbreaking.
Adam,
the only thing
you're talking about the devastation. Mike Morgan said at one point that twister was 2.25 miles wide. So that gives us some idea of what you're looking at right now.
And Adam, we also got word that between 75 and 100 horses were killed.
A severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for your area.
Have to be put down especially if they suffer things like broken legs.
Adam, we spoke to Dr. Orr a little bit earlier, and we can see some of the people around there who appear to be employees of Orr Farms. Where did they ride out the twister? Do you have any idea about that yet? I know you just arrived on the scene, but do you know?
Well, when I got here, I immediately spoke to Dr. Orr. He's driving around in a golf cart just surveying the damage, looking for any animals. And he actually had to pull away from us because they'd found some horses that were off in the distance that needed immediate attention. Out here, we can see some law enforcement officers have showed up as well. They're here sporadically. But one of the things we noticed as we were making our way out to this area, the power's knocked out everywhere. So no matter what street you're on, you can't get through. But you just saw this steady stream of police, ambulance, OG&E workers, everyone just trying to get through these areas. I mean, if you could listen real closely, you can almost hear the sirens off in the background. No matter where you're at in this area, it's silence other than the ambulances and the paramedics and the officers just trying to get through here to areas just like this that have been hit extremely hard. I mean, even where we're at right now, I mean, you can see some of the ambulances, some of the firefighters, police way off in the distance. It really, you're lost for words when you see this stuff up close. I mean, luckily, at least here at the farm, what Dr. Orr told me is that there were no injuries. So they must have rode out the storm somewhere safe where they can get underground or that they were away from where this came through here. I'm assuming he told me they've been out here for 40 plus years, so they obviously must have a safe spot that they could go to in times like this. And so luckily, from what the doctor told me, that no injuries, at least to some of his workers or families. So he has nothing to report on that. But again, when you look out here and you kind of you can't see past any of the damage. I mean, even right where we're at, I'm shocked when they told me that these were horse stalls, because it could have been a house. You really can't tell the difference between any of this stuff out here because it's completely wiped away. It's almost like
if we may,
yeah,
we want to come back to you, but we've gotten some more information about the schools, and of course people are very.
We want to hear actually about what happened with the schools. Can we go back to that real quick?
Now, we can confirm and know for a fact that 2:45, a message was sent to parents on the internet saying we are currently holding all students with the current storm danger until this current storm danger is over. Students are being released to parents only at this time. We will notify you by the same method when students are released, when the student release begins. You need to put this in context. There's no way for these people to communicate down there very much. The Moore Administration Building, we're told, was also damaged, so they're going to have difficulty getting word out of that. We have not confirmed any of this with Moore School Administration, but
we unfortunately think that some kids were in those two buildings because of the lockdown order and because of what we're getting from our news desk right now. We will, of course, continue to update you on that just as quickly as we can on that. Right now, let's go to Lance West.
All right.
who is
Again, very sad news to report there. They do believe that kids were in those 2 schools that were destroyed by that tornado. We've been wanting to get confirmation about what was going on with dismissal of these kids. An elementary school was Plaza Tower Elementary was demolished basically, and another school as well. We're not sure of the name of it, but very horrible news.
Underground shelter in those
Hopefully.
schools. You know, we sure hope so. We want to show you some new video coming in.